Hello everyone and welcome to DIY Ideas. Today we're doing a fabric flower and you can see what it looks like here. I'm really amazed by it and I thought I would like to share this project with you, so stay tuned. Here is everything that we're going to need for today so that we can do our flower from scratch. So as always, some fabric scissors, pins, hand gauge or ruler. Here I have a fabric pen that you can wash out later when you're done with the project. You can also do fabric chalk or something like that. Then here I have a little cup, so just different objects that have a circular shape that we can use for our petals. Then some thread in the matching color to the fabric, as well as a sewing needle for hand sewing, so not a sewing machine this time. And then some fabric as well that you want to use for your flower. I used something that's a little bit sturdier just to help the flower keep its shape, but of course you can try out different types of fabric and see what works best for you. So you can of course use some fabric to strengthen your original fabric if it's a little bit too thin for you to work with, or you can also use something like faux leather or different materials. So felt is also an option. Then I also have this green wire that's going to serve as my stalk. You can use anything that you have here. So here I have something a bit thinner that might work as well. So you can just try out the stuff that you have at home or what you can find in your local stores. Then I have some washi tape here, some thicker and thinner washi tape, maybe for decorating the stalk here. Going around, but you can also just keep it plain if you like that better. And yeah, of course you can do many different things. You can use a hot glue gun and do some extra decorations on here. And yeah, what I also thought of is maybe using a button for the flower as well to make it look a little bit more special. Just make sure you're happy with the size. So now I'm going to use some glasses and cups that I have at home that I want to use as my bases for the petals. So I'm going to show you what I mean in a second. And I have just different sizes here so that it's a little bit more interesting. And yeah, you just need anything like a bowl or a glass or a cup, anything that has a circular shape that you can draw onto your fabric. And you can see here, the way I prep the fabric is folded in half like this so that I can cut out 2 circles at the same time and save time and drawing energy. And yeah, we're gonna do 4 of each size, so 4 circles of each size. So first I'm gonna start with the biggest one and the biggest circle. So you see here I have about between 8 and 9 centimeters in size. And yeah, I'm gonna do 5 single circles, and then I think because I want 10 petals, I think that should be good. And since I'm folding everything in half, you'll see in a moment what I mean. I need 10 so that I can make 5 petals. Then after that, the middle layer is a little bit less, so it's 7 centimeters in diameter. And I'm gonna do 4 of these so that I get a couple of them, just so I have a little bit of variation in there. And then the smallest one is 6 centimeters in diameter. And yeah, you just have to decide on your own how many petals you want, how big you want them as well. And of course, you can also do more if you think that you're gonna need more and that it's gonna look better that way. Also, a really cool trick is to use the back side of the fabric, so not the pretty side or the front, so that you can wash out this later, and even if you have some marks left over, it won't be as visible because you're using the other side of the fabric. This also depends on what kind of pen you're using, but I recommend something that you can wash out later. So now before I cut out the circles that I drew already on here, I'm gonna do a couple more of the other sizes just so I'm quicker and I can do all of the cutting at once. So now that we cut out our circles that we need, what we're gonna do next is do, or fold them in half. And in my case, you can kind of see, because of the type of the fabric, you can kind of see where the line is already. You can also iron over them to make sure that you always see the line. And then what we're gonna do is basically just cut them out so that you can keep working with them. So now that we have all pieces here, we can fold this in half and then get a little, I guess, triangle shape almost. And yeah, we're gonna use that for our petals. So now what we wanna do is do a little pin here on this open side because we wanna close that side up. So we're gonna use a pin to keep everything in place. And you can do a regular straight stitch on the open side here. You can go as close to the edge as you can. You can of course practice your sewing skills, hand sewn if you'd like to, or sewing machine. Here on top, we're gonna keep that open for now. So just this side here. You can of course use a zigzag stitch if you'd like to practice that one too, or just a regular straight stitch. And when you're doing all of the pieces, since they're pretty small, at least in my case, you need to be a little bit more careful. And yeah, what happens often is that this section, this little corner here, can easily get stuck in the sewing machine or just act a little bit weird. So yeah, if it doesn't work as nicely, you can just move away from the edge a little bit, or not go all the way to the end, because later we're gonna fold it like this as well, so it's not gonna be as visible. So maybe just stop a little bit later, or a little bit sooner, or start a little bit later, depends on where you want to start your stitch. But yeah, just don't go all the way to the edge so that it doesn't get tricky and difficult. And yeah, what you can also do is put something underneath, maybe that will also help. So now that we've done the stitches, I recommend that you get rid of the leftover fabric on the outside of the stitch. Just make sure that you don't damage the stitches. So now that I pushed out the corners, you can see how nice this looks, and we can get started with our petals. So you see here I have the bigger ones ready, those smaller ones are gonna wait for a little bit. So yeah, now we can get started. So in order to put all of these together, I have a regular sewing needle and then a little bit of thread on here. I did double it just to make sure it's a little bit stronger. That's also a really cool trick for other sewing projects. You might want to try it out. But what we're going to do is put all of the petals together, and then you can see as well that I have my stalk here, so we're going to use that to hold everything together as well. So what we want to do is fold this stitch right to the side and then go backwards like this, and then forward, push in, and basically you get almost like bunny ears. And yeah, we have that in the front, and then this is what it looks like here in the back. So we have 2 waves in the front and kind of 3 waves in the back. And yeah, I'll show you once again. So this is how you fold it together. And then you can hold it tight, and what you're just gonna do is go with your sewing needle through it as close to the edge as possible, but don't rip the fabric. And and then you can leave it on there for now. Even if it doesn't stay exactly in the same shape, it's gonna fall into place when we do more of these. So now we're gonna do the same thing with all of these. And I'll make sure to do it slowly so that you can follow too. So here is what we have when we've done the outer petals. And now what I want to do is just show you what it looks like. I do have a couple left over, which is fine. And now we still want to have this section unconnected. We're going to do that in the end. So if that's still open, that's the way it's supposed to be, don't worry. And yeah, now we're going to start the next layer and we're going to do the exact same thing, but this time we're using the smaller petals that we did. So you can see here the base, and then on top are going to go the smaller ones, and then you can of course do as many layers as you'd like, or as many petals as you'd like. So now we can take our first petal and close it up. So what we're going to do is go through the first one, and now we're going to go kind of to the back so you can see what that looks like, and then pull, and that's how our flower is going to stay in place in all of the petals. And then you can kind of arrange it the way you like, and you can do a button as well. You can also do different things. You can do a pearl or whatever you like, but I want to show you how you can do a button as well. Something that hides the edges of the fabric, but also makes the flower look a lot more elegant. So yeah, what we're going to do now is take our thread and take our needle with the thread and go through a couple more times just to make sure everything stays in place. And in the next step, we can then do the button as well. So now I'm taking all of the petals here, as you can see, and going through all of them. That way they will stay in place. I'll be right back. Now that we've done the little flower or the smallest flower, we can do the same with the second layer. So again, what I'm doing is going through all of the petals just to keep them together. And this time it can be a little bit looser since the smaller flower is going to go on top, or the smallest layer. And then you can see what this looks like in the back. So you can pull it a little bit tighter, but also just make it work with the smallest flower. So you might want to pull it a little bit wider than the first one. It doesn't have to be as tight. And yeah, now we're going to connect these two layers, not just the middle layer in itself, but also with the smallest flower. And this is what we have now that all of our layers are together, and this is our flower. So of course you can arrange this any way you like. It can be even fuller or a little bit less full of petals. This is up to you and the way you like it. So yeah, as I said, I didn't pull too tight on the middle and the lower layer just because I think it looks a lot nicer that way. And yeah, you can of course readjust when you're done and make sure that you like the way it looks. So now I'm going to show you how to do a leaf for your petal. So if we want to do a leaf for stalk, then this is the fabric that I'm going to use as an example. Of course, you can use something like felt that I have here, anything in green or in a color that you want. So you can see here I have some old racks that I'm going to use. So you can cut out any kind of shape and size that you prefer. This is what I wanted to do, so kind of a tear shape, teardrop, but then also a little bit longer on the other end or on the bottom end, and so that it looks like a leaf. And what I want to do is kind of fold it like this around the stalk, and I think it's going to look more natural that way and look like a real leaf. So of course we can do a little stitch there then, or glue it with a hot glue gun and keep it in place. You can also do several leaves. In that case, I recommend different sizes because it's going to look a lot nicer and more interesting that way. So yeah, I'm going to iron over these and do that. So this is what I have now. I have some extra fabric on the back just to make sure that it's a little bit sturdier. And now I'm gonna pin everything back together that I strengthened it. I'm gonna stitch all of the open edges together. I'm just gonna leave this little section open so that I can turn it inside out later. And that way we're gonna have a lovely leaf. Make sure that here it's wide enough for you to turn it inside out. Yeah, the thinner it is, the narrower it is, the more difficult it's going to be. So make sure that it's still wide enough so that you can work with it. And then when we do that, we're basically gonna turn it inside out and then fold it like this so that it can stand around the stalk. So around the leaves, what I did is a zigzag stitch in a little bit darker color because I really like the way this looks. And yeah, you can see here, the stitch was acting a little bit weird at the beginning. That's what usually happens with the thinner sections. And yeah, here at the end, I did an extra stitch just to keep those two sides together. And what I can do is basically push my wire through and the leaves are gonna stay in place. What I also want to do is kind of push the smaller one into the bigger leaf and then, keep them together like this. And now we can do our flower. So in order to put these two together, you can of course work with a hot glue gun if you'd like to. Basically push through the middle as far as you can without popping it out on the other side, and then do a little bit of hot glue on there to keep it in place. But I'm also going to show you how you can work with some wire to keep it in place. You can of course make several layers here and that way give it a little bit more stability. And then I'm going to use some washi tape to hide that as well. I think this is something that you can find in gardening stores. Since it can be used for gardening as well, but any thin wire that you can work with is gonna be fine. So I'm gonna do that really quick. I'm gonna do a zigzag style. I'll show you in a second. I'll be right back. So here is the wire and the way it looks, and that's what I wanted. So what we're gonna do is use this shape and just go around the top section and then just make sure that it's all stable on there and that we can put our flower onto it. And here is our finished flower for today. all from scratch, all out of fabric except for the wire and the button. And yeah, you can of course do multiple of these flowers, different styles, different colors as well. So you can change the top section here if you'd like to do a different style for each flower, or even change the bottom. There's a lot of room to play around. And yeah, you can do 2 layers, like the 2 smaller ones here, or even more if you want a bigger effect. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's project. Feel free to let me know what you think. You can also shoot us a thumbs up if you'd like to see more, and subscribe to our channel to let us know that you want to see more videos. If you do, make sure to click on the notification bell so that you always get notified when we post something new. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye!